Today's special guest is someone with a compelling journey, someone who's built their career brick by brick in a profession long dominated by legacies, hierarchies, and often unspoken elitism. While most young lawyers are often asked to keep their views muted or keep their views to themselves, he has proven that being outspoken is not a liability but a strength. His courtroom voices, his public voices, his writings, all unapologetic, and they've built a special place uniquely his own. This is, of course, none other than Senior Advocate Sai Deepak. Welcome, sir, to Off the Record at LawBeat. Thank you so much for your time.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste, sir. I just want to reflect on your journey first. You're a first-generation lawyer, became a senior advocate at 39 years. It is a rarity, definitely, in the profession. What kind of roadblocks have you faced when you look back in your journey or continue to face, if at all? Would you like to reflect on some of those things in life?
So the thing is, my journey from engineering to law itself has been the subject of curiosity for a lot of people, just as the rest of my batchmates have faced, because we are products of the first batch of the IIT Kharagpur Law School, which is the Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law. So 2006 to 2009, I'm a product of the first batch. So all my colleagues, my batchmates, were engineers, doctors, or MBAs with a science background, or people with tertiary degrees in science. So the impediments didn't begin in the profession. They started in law school for two reasons. Because it was a law school housed in an IIT. So for the rest of the IIT, this department was an anomaly.
Okay.
The question in my head was, how is a management school less anomalous compared to a law school with an IIT? If you can have an MBA program, why not a law program? At the end of the day, if you think engineers becoming lawyers is an anomaly, then engineers sitting in banks is equally an anomaly. Second, we had to get used to it. The rest of the profession, or at least the rest of the law schools, didn't know where to place us and how to place us. Coupled with the fact that there were teething problems which are typically associated with the first batch of any law school. But for the fact that we were housed in an IIT and therefore, for some reason, we could ride on the coattails of the IIT brand, we had no brand of our own. So the good part was, because it was an IIT, the infrastructure was good in terms of databases, libraries, and that brand had the ability to attract a lot of visiting faculty. So I had the privilege of being taught by Professor Enel Mitra, who taught us constitution, jurisprudence, CPC, banking. Then Barrister Jayant Kumar Mitra, the leading lions of the Calcutta Bar, and his contemporary and the former Advocate General of West Bengal, Shri Bimal Kumar Chatterjee, BKC. These were the people who came and taught us procedure and all that. So certainly that advantage we had.
Okay.
But once you landed in the profession, two things created a bit of a stumbling block. ये engineer यहाँ पे क्या कर रहा है? That's one. Second, the school's name remains Rajiv Gandhi School of Intellectual Property Law. It has managed to produce people with varied specializations going beyond intellectual property law, but including intellectual property law. But because there was intellectual property in its name, most people thought हमें इससे ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं आता है. So they thought that they're good at IP, but outside of IP they may not.
Okay.
So, but for these optical limitations, frankly speaking, for any young first generation litigator to practice in, I would recommend Delhi.
Why is that?
Multiple reasons. I think you have to realize that the bar is a cosmopolitan bar.
Okay.
It could also be a function of the fact that the Supreme Court is located here, so therefore it attracts talent from all over the country.
Yes,
that's one.
Definitely.
But I don't think, with my background, I could have become a senior advocate at the age of 39 as a first-gen litigator in any other place other than the Delhi High Court as on date. Perhaps the Supreme Court, yes, but the Delhi High Court for sure is the place. A lot of people think a lot of things about the nature of the profession in general, the nature of litigation, and the nature of the Delhi bar. I'm a very proud product of it. And I don't say this because I've been bestowed with the silk I said this as much in multiple interviews even before the designation, long ago, as long ago as maybe 2019, 2020, even before COVID.
Okay.
I said this long ago.
But Delhi is also very difficult to deal with in many ways. There is
As
a
a
sense
city
of
or as a bar?
both, I
No.
would say.
If you're used to the Delhi speed and its efficiency as a member of the Delhi bar, especially the Delhi High Court, and even some of our district courts are fantastic, you are spoiled because no other place can make you happy. To the extent that perhaps even the highest court of the land can learn a thing or two from the administration and the registry of the Delhi High Court.
I think to some extent I agree with you. But when it comes to the bar,
Yeah.
I have been in the practicing space.
Right.
Of course, this is a personal view. I feel like there is also a lot of elitism.
Ji.
Because it's the capital, everybody feels like, oh, we are from Delhi High Court or we are from the Supreme Court. We are better than the others.
Okay.
And in terms of general accessibility also, for
Right.
somebody, who probably would have been a first generation lawyer, it is difficult to figure things out.
See, I do not subscribe to the notion that people in Delhi or practitioners of Delhi are specially endowed with greater intelligence or higher wisdom. I don't believe in that. I've been to the Madras Bar, the Karnataka High Court, Calcutta, Telangana, Kerala, Bombay for that matter. And the bar and the bench are fantastic even there. And I don't use the word even in a condescending way. I'm saying it's not as if this is the Patrick Sampati of the Delhi bar. Okay, but what is it that makes Delhi different? And that's what people have to realize, is that they have cracked the code of making sure that the administration of the Delhi High Court, especially when it comes to filing and listing of cases as quickly as possible, is facilitated by the registry as opposed to being an impediment. The registry typically does not see itself as the roadblock.
Maybe the process is definitely, I have no doubt about that.
Right.
Not that I've practiced anywhere else.
Right, but in terms of you're talking about the atmospherics of practice,
Yes.
there's a decent chance that different people have different stories to tell. And the story that is closest to me is my own. So I can tell
Fair
you what I
enough.
went through.
Fair enough.
And I've also drawn from the vicarious experience of people around me. What I can tell you is this. When I joined the profession, I was originally offered, or rather recommended to Mr. Gopal Subramaniam. In 2009, he had then become the Solicitor General. Dr. Anil Mitra sent me with a letter of recommendation to him. And parallelly, I had applied to Mr. Sai Krishna, who is the managing partner of Sai Krishna and Associates.
Okay.
Because I had worked on their very first 2 patent matters when I was in law school, because I was writing for Spicy IP. So his offices had reached out to the late Mr. Shamnath Bashir or Dr. Shamnath Bashir, asking him if there are people who could perhaps help them with patent matters. And that's when I had started writing for Spicy IP, I think in February 2008. So when that happened, Mr. Bashir was kind enough to put me in touch with Mr. Sai Krishna.
Okay.
At that point, I was interning with John F. Wells Technology Center, which is GE's research center in Bangalore, at their center called PACE, Patent Analytics and Center of Excellence, where they do business intelligence. And this was as part of my law school internship.
Okay.
So Mr. Sai Krishna was kind enough to fly me down to Delhi to work on the matter over the weekends. That's how my initiation began.
Oh.
So I'd started working, I'd prepared the pleadings, I'd done everything, I was ready with it, at least both the prior art search and everything. This was the patent matter. One was Life Tech Technologies, which was with respect to a product called stents, which is used for the heart as an occluder, which is if there is a hole in the heart, you try and close it with this. And the second one was for automated parking systems. I think Shakbar versus Simpark, an Israeli company versus an Indian company, a Calcutta-based company.
Okay.
I worked on those matters. So by the time I was done with law school, I thought that I had given them a flavor of what I could do. And they too were serious about setting up a serious patent litigation practice, because prior to that, they were primarily known for copyrights and trademarks. They also had, I think, a patent prosecution practice on the side, but not a patent litigation practice.
Sai Krishna.
Sai Krishna and Associates. So that's how my initiation began. It just so happens that Delhi is not a cheap place to live in, it's expensive. And my expectations were slightly different from the ones quoted by the then Solicitor General. Mr. Sai Krishna was kind enough to make an offer, and what I thought I could live with, and with time, of course, it increased. What I can tell you is, some people from the south may have some kind of roadblocks when it comes to the north, or maybe Delhi and whatnot. I myself had some questions in my head. I actually thought, would my complexion come in the way of my ability to live in the city or practicing in the bar? Turns out I was absolutely wrong. There used to be a lawyer then who used to practice in Delhi, and now I think he's gone to pursue his master's, maybe PhD in Scandinavia, one of these Scandinavian countries, Mr.
Okay.
Rakesh Prasad. So I'd met him, and he told me, don't have any such notions. That's not the case here. Maybe you will meet one or two stray remarks about your complexion in one or two places, but that's not what defines Delhi, and certainly not the bar. It's a place whose doors you must constantly knock. You show the patience and the perseverance and the diligence and commitment and the hard work, the doors will open. I took that very seriously. And he said, you tell the place that you're serious about practicing there. And don't constantly come with this victimhood complex of being an outsider.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Delhi is a part of the country. You're in the capital. There's no dearth of people from across the country in this part of the world. So what's your problem? In fact, there are certain localities which are so-called South Indian localities, right? So what's your problem? He was so clear about it. I think that more or less opened my head. And I said, why do I come with these preconceived notions? I would say it certainly comes from the horse's mouth as someone who's practiced in this place for quite a few years. He set up a fantastic law office, AG India Law Offices. That was his firm. And so I took that very, very seriously. And I just decided to give my best every day. I was blessed with a senior, Mr. Sai Krishna, who was known for giving opportunities to juniors. The average age profile of most people handling very, very high profile portfolios was around 25 and 26.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. And I was all the more impatient. I wanted to quickly go to court, prove and do all of that. So
I think that is very important. When you are a litigating lawyer, you have to,
that
like a lot
initiative,
of, seniors say that you have to ask me for work.
Correct.
I'm not going to come and give you work.
See,
That is
इसमें
very
एक
important.
सप्लायर डिमांड का एक सिचुएशन है. आपके तरफ से डिमांड ये होना चाहिए that मुझे काम चाहिए.
Exactly.
Be serious about it. Don't wait for somebody to give it on a platter. Second, nobody is going to be more interested in your career than yourself.
Yes.
किसी के पास इतना टाइम नहीं होता है कि आपको बैठ के सिखाएं. वो उतना टाइम नहीं होता है. Because they're all trying to meet the client's deadlines. They're looking at the deliverables, right? And it's important to humanize this a bit. Because this aspect is the very same aspect of the profession that's typically dehumanized. People don't understand the human side and the considerations here. So when that happens, and if you're blessed with a person who's willing to meet that demand by saying, okay, here's the opportunity, take it and run. तो आपकी तैयारी किस लेवल की है वही डिसाइड करेगी. Are you going to say that I will not be ready until the opportunity presents itself? Or are you going to say, I will be ready. When the ball comes, I'll move on a front foot and hit it for a 6.
Yeah.
That is a decision that you have to make. आपकी जर्नी की जो हिसाब किताब है आप ही को रखनी पड़ेगी. People will give opportunities, all that will happen. But at the end of the day, this is how it works. So, honestly speaking, a place should be defined by perhaps this consideration, that are the earnest people with the initiative being rewarded with opportunities or not?
Okay.
If the answer is a yes, I would certainly be charitable in my assessment of the place. And in that sense, Delhi certainly counts for something to me.
That's a fair analysis. And this is why I also want to reflect on your journey in terms of setting up your own independent practice. You said that you joined a law firm and then you moved into independent practice. Then, of course, you went on to become a senior advocate.
Yeah.
How was that like? A lot of people are not able to do that. Why? Because, there's a cushion of salary coming in every month and there's a fixed job. You don't have to set up an office and you're getting work, so it keeps going on and on.
Yeah.
So, do you think you were probably coming from a place of, say, somebody who likes to take risks when you were doing this, or somebody who has privilege, or someone who is okay with, stepping up and just moving on and figuring out things for themselves? What was it like for you, and why did you take that decision? And at what point was it that you decided?
Let's address the question of a background. I come from a lower middle class family. My father is a retired bank officer. My mother is a retired school teacher. Okay? And we come from the south. I'll proudly say, yes, we are Tamil Brahmins. And therefore, there are some professions which we naturally take to. If you are a Tamil Brahmin and you come from a low middle class family, law is not a profession that you take to naturally. because it was seen as a profession of the blue bloods. That notion of elitism certainly remained at least until I entered the profession. Okay, and maybe in several measures it's a function of which place you're talking about. If you go
You
to
mean in your family that perception?
In my
changed
community
after?
in general, in the circles that I grew up in, वकालत हमारी it's not our cup of tea for sure. And अगर कोई वकील या डॉक्टर के पास जा रहा है, इसका मतलब है कि उसका 7:30 शुरू हो चुका है. That's basically how we used to see it.
Of course,
okay?
yeah.
That black coat we would be really scared of. Okay? So considering that, this was certainly not on the basis of privilege. Two, I don't know if I was exceptionally risk-taking, because if there was a batch of people in IIT Law School, all of whom were making the transition from the sciences or engineering to law, so all of them were risk-takers in my view.
Yes.
So I'm not an exception in that sense.
Okay.
I'm certainly not an individual exception. Oh, paida ho gaya, ye aa gaya. I am sure there are other people who are willing to do this. 1,000 people at the very least appeared for the aptitude test conducted by IIT for that particular program. It was called the National Aptitude Test.
Okay.
So at least 1,000 log to the us time pe. That's one. Turns out हमारे पहले भी BE LLBs थे, BSc LLBs थे. It was not uncommon. Okay, a lot of people were doing that. From an institutional perspective, this was the first experiment. Okay, so maybe in that sense we look special, but I don't think we are. I don't want to give any special status to us. But I'll give credit for the fact that in a generation that was racing towards GRE, CAT, and so on and so forth, at least 1,000 people thought this is worth investing in. Now the question is, अगर ये program IIT में नहीं होता, तो कहीं और होता, तो क्या हम जाते कि नहीं जाते?
Yeah.
वो मुझे नहीं पता. क्योंकि IIT का लगाव तो हर इंजीनियर के इसमें होता है. So maybe that was one of the reasons. At least for me, that was one of the reasons. 50% of the reason was that. 50% of the reason was law. To be very, very honest. If this program had been started elsewhere, I have no clue what would have happened.
No, but I'm thinking now, did you ever think that, this is like the blue-blooded profession and I'm going to challenge this mindset and I'm going to get inside and make it big? I'm sure everybody thinks like that when they are imagining such things for themselves.
I entered the profession only to join litigation. This much I was very clear about. And I don't think anybody sets out in a profession thinking, मैं इसमें also ran बनूंगा. It's a question of what you want to do and does what you do match what you want to do. I was clear I wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And I was willing to do Ashtang Namaskar to Devi Saraswati. Period. That's what I was interested in doing. That much I was very, very clear about, because that's the only way we are brought up. Knowledge is everything. Uske baad baki sab. We don't come from a landed community. Education and knowledge is what we go with. So for us, this was the first. In my view, it is a collective mentality of this community, of this group. So it's not something special to me. The poorer you are, the harder you work. And the greater is your faith, and knowledge is ability to empower you and set you free.
Yes.
Think of it on those lines. So we were very serious about it, and that's all we were clear about, because we had no property to fall back on to say, bete jo karna hai kar, aish kar le, there is something to fall back on, wo to nahi. Sure, there may be some instances where perhaps I felt, if only I had the support system. But with time you realize those things have their own advantages and disadvantages, because there is a reputation that precedes you, therefore there is the added pressure. I am the unknown commodity who is trying to make it in the profession. So the only competition I have is against myself, in my own headspace. I'm not competing with the legacy of my father or my grandfather, nothing of that sort. Two, with time you realize the realities of the profession are different for the first gens and the second gens and the third gens. So difference hota hai. But I don't think that's where the analysis should stop. Because those who want to fail or don't have the will to succeed will stop there. Those who are serious about the profession and say unfairness is a reality of life, a loaded dice is a reality of life, a system with people who are from the system is a reality of life, and then I will deal with the system, then you will be able to make something out of yourself.
Figure things out then.
Then you'll be able to navigate it. Think of it as a problem statement or a challenge. How do you wish to navigate that system?
Yes.
It's not impossible. It is possible.
And also you've been so forthright with your views. Usually lawyers are told, when they're younger at least.
When did you think I became forthright?
I don't know, maybe you should
Were you
tell
aware
us.
of my existence prior to 2016? Not possible.
I wouldn't put a number to it, but
Around Sabrimala is when people started knowing who I was. The thing is, in law school or even in the profession, I'm not exactly the docile category.
Yeah.
Nobody can call me that for sure. And I certainly don't associate myself with that trait. I was clear and forthright for sure, but being forthright and being vocal are two different things.
Okay.
Okay. So from 2009 to 2016, while I was associated with Sai Krishna, it's not as if people were not aware of my vichardhara or my ideological leanings and all that. But that took a backseat because the focus was, I have come here to prove who I am as a professional first.
Okay.
So for the first 7 years, I focused on earning my stripes as a competent litigator on the commercial side in the Delhi High Court.
Okay.
I was very clear about it कि आपकी दृष्टि वहीं पे आपको जमाई रखनी पड़ेगी for you to reach that place. You will not keep moving here and there.
But sir, I think
बोलिए ना.
7 years is a very less time to be able to establish yourself to that level where you are okay or others are okay with being forthright. You say that you did that for 7 years and you wanted to establish yourself as a professional in those 7 years, and only after that you became more public, so as to speak.
Correct.
So I don't know. I mean, 7 years is a very little time to establish yourself in the litigation space.
I don't know if I should make a self-congratulatory statement to that effect. All I can say is this: मेरे दिमाग में एक simple calculation है. अगर आप litigation कर रहे हैं, I can't speak of other models of practice. Transactional practice में क्या होता है, ये मैं comment नहीं कर सकता because I've never been part of it. My general calculation is, and I've said this to a lot of people who bother to listen, to interns or whoever it is, first 3 years you make yourself useful to your senior.
Okay.
2 years thereafter, the client should become aware of your existence and say, he's good or she's good or they, whoever it may be. 2 years after that, the court should say, they know what they're talking about.
This is somebody I know. Like I'm used to this person.
This person is not fibbing or faffing here. So, senior, client, court. If you're serious about what you want, that is the 7-year track. 7 साल में लोग एटलीस्ट एसोसिएट पार्टनर तो बन ही जाते हैं. So what am I saying that's different? Two
different things. Anyway,
see, the point is, there is also the question of the individual tadka that you bring to the table. That you will. I was very clear that I will not hide my views, but it's not as if I'm going to wear my view constantly on my sleeve all the time unless it was necessary. And as long as I was associated with another entity, the simple funda was nobody else should pay the price for your opinions.
Exactly.
And so, be a bit more restrained. When I went independent, I said, I will take responsibility for whatever I say from here on. And to be honest, in my previous stint as an employee of Sai Krishna Associates, my views were never stifled. Political or otherwise, I was never stifled. I was capable of and I was allowed to speak my mind on the law and things outside the law. To the extent that if I felt that something was wrong in terms of an opinion or whatever it may be, whether others felt it and didn't have the guts to say it or they didn't feel it, that's a different issue. I would certainly make it a point to make it known that I disagreed. And the place, and especially Mr. Sai Krishna, was large-hearted enough to accept it. So there's a lot, I think, the formative years play in terms of a role, in terms of who you become as a litigator, what kind of values you grow up with, what kind of values you pass on, and what you wish to be associated with or identified with. आपकी खुद की एक पहचान तो होगी, but what your professional parvarish also makes a huge difference.
Yes.
2016 September is the first time I went public in terms of a proper speech on freeing temples from state control at the Press Club of India. That's when the whole thing started. So that I decided to take it up very seriously, saying now I will not hold it back because I think I've proven enough to the profession in terms of what I can do. And the profession had started reciprocating as well in terms of opportunities. Right. I was able to go independent at the age of 30 on the 28th June midnight 2016, precisely because by then the profession had started saying, हम आपको engage करने के लिए तैयार हैं, आप कब independent जाएंगे? Because when you're associated with a firm, there are limitations to you being engaged, obviously.
Yes.
And then there's obviously the perception of conflict, so on and so forth. So therefore, once they started saying it, I said, okay, therefore the profession is saying, now is the time. In my own headspace, the ideal time that I wanted to go out was in 2017 because I had loans to pay back. A lot of for my brother's education, so on and so forth. I was trying. He's a product of Carnegie Mellon. I was helping at least my family in whatever little way I could. So I thought 2017 should be a good time because by then he'd have graduated. That was the goal. A lot of clients said, we'll help you set up a filing practice. I said, why do you think I'll do that? I want to argue in courts. I think I can do it. Right. And that's what I will do. I will either sink or swim with this decision is what I was very clear about. Right. So the initial retainers that had come my way, within 6 months I gave them all off, saying I don't want a retainer. The profession will feed me or I will not. Oh, wonderful. I gave it back. So I retained only 2 sets of matters with me. One is the Basmati litigation, and the second is the standard essential patent litigation for Gioni and Intex. And I gave them up also by 2018. I had given them up, or maybe 2021 I had given them up. Okay. Basmati, just before I became a senior, I had given them up. The sense the retained client was given up even then. Because the goal was, if you want to survive in litigation as a profession, especially as an arguing counsel, and this answers one of the questions you raised, which is, you will have to deal with the uncertainty of revenue as a reality of life and embrace that if you want to be successful. वो रिस्क तो आपको लेना ही पड़ेगा. लिटिगेशन में सक्सेसफुल होने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि सिर्फ आपका लीगल दिमाग अच्छे से चलता है. रीढ़ की हड्डी मजबूत होनी चाहिए. That's at least 50% of the equation. Patience की ज़रूरत है. And you should embrace that uncertainty. Right. Because that uncertainty is what keeps you on your toes. Make sure that you're never complacent. And you take every opportunity as a new opportunity and have what Jeff Bezos calls the day one approach. Every day is day one.
So how do you regulate this in your own mind? Do you have any specific practices you do? Because this is a lot to take in. I mean, where you have to manage so many things, your public life as an intellectual, as an author, as a senior advocate. So do you have any practice that you implement for this?
Don't let the two worlds collide unnecessarily. Is my simple funda. Family, profession, and the so-called ideological side, I try to keep them in 3 boxes. It's not always easy to keep them in 3 neat boxes. Sometimes they collide, sometimes they don't. But वो जद्दोजहद तो चलेगा कि इसको अलग से रखो. So that one doesn't affect your focus on the other. The big picture is family and the society. But all of that is made possible because there is something else helping you retain your independence to talk about this. Yes. That is the profession.
Yes.
So the profession is the chula that allows everything else, or that makes everything else possible. Most importantly, I love the profession. I love the subject. I love the analysis. I love the process. I love taking on a hostile audience in particular. I love standing up and making an argument. Nothing gives me a high more than making an argument in a court of law or outside of it. When someone says you are wrong, I said game on. I'm ready for it. And that is the basic fire which keeps everything else going and that makes everything else look meaningful. अगर वो नहीं है और सिर्फ पैसा है and you're driven only by money, ज़्यादा दिन तो काम नहीं चलेगा.
कईयों का चलता है.
हो सकता है, maybe their approach is business-like. They'll make money, but legacy is made by people who are in love with the profession. Legacy वहीं से निकलती है.
Absolutely. I agree.
You will not leave a lasting legacy unless you are committed to the profession in some way or the other, unless and until it's your first love. Yes. So it's a question of what do you want in life. पैसा बनाना कोई बना लेगा. There are any number of lawyers who are fantastically commercially successful, but you don't know the names of all of them. But you know the names of only those people who have left a legacy. Yes. So it's a question of what do you want, what are you aspiring for.
You also mention and always tag the counsels that brief you or junior counsels who assisted you. Is that something you do consciously because you want to give them more visibility? Or
I think I can afford to say this now. It actually has a slightly awkward and embarrassing origin story.
Okay.
So when I went independent, I wanted people to know that I practice as an arguing counsel. So between 2016 and perhaps maybe 2017-18, I would put out a list of matters I'd appeared in. Whether उसमें कोई order निकला या नहीं निकला, that's a different issue. I'd put out just to tell people I'm there. In hindsight, perhaps that was a bit cringe. But जब आप, to answer and loop it back to the first question, जब आप first generation litigator होते हैं, you take a few chances. Trial error आप कुछ करते हैं.
Correct.
कुछ सही निकलते हैं, कुछ गलत निकल जाते हैं. Okay, you may be proud of some of the things that you did. You may not be so proud of some of the things you did, but in that moment they appealed to you because you're learning. It's not as if there is somebody else to teach you how this profession works.
Yes.
You're learning as you go along. You're actually making up the rules of the game as you go along. You're trying to understand it. When you work for a firm, you know the profession better than when you go independent, at least for the first few years. Because now there is nobody else to watch your back. You're entirely on your own. Your mistakes are your own and your triumphs are your own, at least for the most part. So that's how the origin story actually started.
Okay.
That's how the LinkedIn post actually started.
Right.
And then with time I realized I don't think I need to do this anymore. उस phase का उसका जो value था वो हो गया. It had done its job. So with that strategy stopped. Then I realized what happens is I have the opportunity to do two things. There is, of course, a private, personal, selfish incentive there. I'll be blunt about it, which is I didn't want to be known exclusively for IP. Because my primary strength remains intellectual property today, even today, but I've gone much beyond that, whether it's Constitution, IBC, and so on and so forth. I wanted to make it known to people.
Yes, it's been pretty expansive.
Correct. So that I wanted to make it known.
Yes.
And I realized, okay, how bad would it look if you're constantly talking about yourself? मैंने ये उखाड़ दिया, मैंने ये कर दिया, वो कर दिया, ये कर दिया, it will go on. I didn't want to do that. So I wanted to basically recognize the people who were responsible for giving me that opportunity, which is the briefing council.
Right.
And if possible, also mention the juniors within that particular briefing team who actually worked on the matter and who came prepared for the matter. And this one, if you say that one of your strengths is intellectual property, then attribution goes with that territory.
Yes.
And you have to try and follow it wherever you can. Two, LinkedIn has become such a powerful platform for visibility. I thought this would also help them, especially young practitioners who are setting up their own independent filing practices. A presence would certainly help. And I don't mind saying this. If I have a certain presence and visibility, I don't mind being of use to people who can benefit from it, provided they actually come prepared.
Yeah. If whenever you mention somebody or you specify somebody in your profile, I'm sure it
Whatever happens,
blows up. Yes. So I think from that perspective, it's also very important for junior lawyers, younger people to get that form of...
Especially the solo practitioners or young independent practitioners who have set up their own fledgling practices. I certainly wanted to support them because the profession has helped me. I would certainly like to help. Because a lot of times, the work that I got when I went independent was not because I was somebody's chacha or bhatija or whatever it is.
Right.
ये लड़का ठीक से काम कर लेता है, इसको दे दो काम. That's how I've got it.
I think eventually that's what it burns down to. Correct. Even if you're somebody's bhatija or whatever.
Correct.
It all burns down to
उसका
that.
अपना एक mileage होता है, currency होता है, उसके बाद आपका काम ही आपके लिए बात करेगा.
बात करेगा.
Correct.
I agree.
Correct.
And of course, you do so much. Do you have anything that you do on the side, your co-curricular activities, anything sport related? Dogs is something I read about. You really enjoy being with dogs. You have 3 dogs now?
3 dogs, yes.
Yeah. I saw a post of you on Instagram back in 2021.
Yeah, December 21.
In which you said that you had adopted a dog from Shimla and got her to Delhi.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's hard.
The thing is, those who think discipline is boring don't know what they're talking about. And discipline is what helps you extract the maximum out of the very same 24 hours that everybody has been blessed with. And until I was in law school, my fitness was decent. With profession, समृद्धि की ये निशानी होती है कि पेट भी निकल आता है और मोटे होते जाते हो. That's exactly what happened. By the time it was 2018, I was 109 kilos. And then I came down to 2019, it was 102 kilos. And then when the COVID hit, I was very serious that I had to get back into shape. So I lost about 18.5 kilos in a matter of 6 months, the wrong way, which is heavy duty cardio, running and everything else. And then I started doing weight training. Then the good part is when I'd gone for a lit fest, Kalaripayattu Gurus. Kalaripayattu is a martial art from Kerala.
Okay.
They reached out and said, you should learn this. आपको देख के बहुत से लोग सीखेंगे, तो हम आपको सिखाएंगे.
Right.
So from December or maybe September 2021 onwards, I've been consistently learning Kalaripayattu. And then I realized with time that my body responds better to Indian style training. Just traditional Indian style training along with this. where you don't bulk up too much, but you focus on functional training and all that.
Yes.
So I try to work out at least maybe 4 to 5 days a week in the time that I get.
Wow.
So that helps. And then there is, of course, let's say, a religious aspect to your life as well, which keeps you centered, which tells you that 19 के ऊपर हमेशा 20 एक होता है. That's how that works. Now coming to the dog part of it, COVID is when actually this also happened. So in my old office, one of my interns, I think her name was Yashika. So she came running to me and said, "Sir, there's a dog which has given birth to 4 pups. Can you come and see it?" I said, "काम करो, ये क्या कर रही हो?" But she said, "Please, आप आके देखिए." So I went down, and right in front of my house, literally in a hole in the wall, this dog was taking care of 3 or 4 of its pups rather. And next day, it just so happened that one of them met with an accident. We helped it out. And लोग क्या कर रहे थे, एक एक करके उन 4 पिल्लों में से एक एक को लेके गए. And the mother was crying. She was running around searching for the pup. Then I realized that we can't let it go like this. And for some reason, I thought I should get it in. I brought the mother and the son inside. So the mother is called Leelavati, Urf Leela.
Okay.
And the boy is called Laddu.
Right.
So these are my first 2 dogs, Indies, strays. That's how I brought them in. They made COVID completely livable. But for them, I'd have gone bonkers. And they've been a huge part of my life. Then when I went to Shimla, Mall Road, I think I'd finished a dinner with one of the clients, and then the briefing councils and I were going back from Mall Road to Hotel Clarks, the Clarks Hotel, which is right in front of the Shimla High Court.
Yes.
Himachal Pradesh High Court. So on the way, a couple of people came in the dark. They managed to recognize my dark face, and they're like, "Sir, selfie, whatever that was going on," because by then the first book had been released. So I was just doing that. Then I could sense a creature staring at me, ground up. I looked at it. There was this grubby but extremely cute-looking pup. So I lifted it. Then I said, "Jai Shri Ram, mere saath bolo," and all that. I took a couple of pictures with it. I started walking back to the hotel, and then I realized I'm not going back without this thing because I'll regret this for the rest of my life. I am taking her back with me. I immediately called my wife and I said, "I'm bringing this. I can't help it." She's like, "तुम्हें झेल रहा हूँ, इसको भी झेल लूँगी. It's okay, you please come." So I got her, and I think it's a mixed breed. I'm not exactly sure of the breed, but it too is an indie. When I picked it up, it was 4 months old. We called her Layavati. So it's Leela, Laddu, and Laya. Laya is what you guys call Sur Tal Lay. Laya is the southern version of Lay.
Oh, wonderful.
That's where
there's
it comes
a meaning
from.
There.
Yeah, there's meaning there. I think it's tempo. I think that's what it translates to. So that's what I got. So, and therefore I have 3 dogs. And she is the princess of the house. She has enjoyed the house better than I have ever in my life. Every corner of the house she sits and she talks to the squirrels, everything else. She does everything. So I'm happy to say that yes, I'm an animal lover and certainly a dog lover for sure.
Takes me to the Supreme Court recent order that came in on stray dog removals. Of course, it was later modified. What do you think of it?
You know, there are 2 aspects to this. If I say I'm a dog lover, I'm sure there is one cross section that will lunge at me, saying you guys have no concern for others. And despite being a dog lover, if I have certain concerns, I'll be seen as a traitor to the cause. Be that as it may, I am not new to holding forth on subjects in a way I feel like. So I'll make my position clear. Before I owned dogs, I have faced the issue of stray dogs for sure. Okay? Them biting children, old people, so on and so forth. तो वो एक issue तो है. Let's not even deny it. When you deny the existence of a problem is when people get riled up. It's a problem that you must accept. Have my views changed just because I own dogs now? Perhaps yes. Because I'm less scared of dogs now, even stray dogs, because of being a dog owner. So it's not as if there are no stray dogs anymore in my life just because I'm a dog owner. No? When I go out for a run, there are stray dogs. So sometimes when they start growling, I turn around and I stare and they shut up and sit. So वो हो सकता है. But the fact of the matter is, there is a problem. The disagreement or the delta is with respect to how do you wish to address the problem. And do you wish to address the problem going beyond the 4 corners of the law? And where do you draw the line between addressing the problem and legitimizing animal cruelty where you think it's okay to do or to perpetrate, let's say to inflict cruelty on the dogs. Okay, in my view, perhaps that balance could have been struck better. For a very long time, the absence of institutional mechanisms to deal with the problem and giving effect to the ABC solution itself has been a huge ask. Okay, the thing is, unfortunately, हम क्या करते हैं that problem को एक स्तर तक बढ़ने दे देते हैं. उसके बाद we end up using a band-aid to address an institutional problem. मतलब problem इस हद तक चले जाता है, and then you're forced to act because you're also under tremendous public pressure. But you could have addressed each of these problems in different stages. Right. And why did it have to come to the court ultimately for this when there are governments for this and there are other bodies to handle this problem? So in my view, there is something to be said on that. Now there are ripple effects and second order effects of what the first order did. I ended up appearing on the matter almost in the last date when Justice Vikramnath's bench had pronounced its clarificatory order coming out with certain modifications and changes to the original order. The reason I was in court that day was because the Rajasthan High Court had actually passed an order not limiting itself only to dogs. It went whole hog. So on behalf of another animal care center, I appeared before the Supreme Court saying, this too has happened. Kindly make sure that this judgment is stayed. And the guidelines that you've imposed are not limited only to dogs in general. And it's not limited to cases in the north or whatever it is. Let it have a national effect, but let there be a tempering effect. So where I stand, there is a stray dog problem, a very serious problem. Yeah. There's no point in discounting the videos that you see and live experiences that all of us have had firsthand. But how do you choose to address it? And see what has happened in some of these educational institutions, close to 100 dogs being locked up in one place. Yeah. Those things can't speak. Yeah. Maybe you should have some concern for that and find a way to address it, which is neutering, vaccination. Let there be something to be done to that effect. So the one thing that the Supreme Court did, especially in the clarificatory order, I think was fairly sound, which is those who wish to speak about it or whine about it, put your money where your mouth is. All the centers visit, you take the responsibility, partner, deposit money so that we know that you're serious stakeholders. You can't just fight about rights without having a duty. Yes. There is a corresponding duty to that right as well. So one of the suggestions that was actually part of the solution that we had presented to court, which we didn't need to because by that time the court had already taken that view, was involve the NGOs as well. If the state does not have enough resources or people to address the issue, partner with the private entities and the non-governmental organizations to try and address the problem as much as possible.
Last two questions. Yeah. One is of course about what you think is required in a law student when they are trying to manage their work, their litigation practice, or trying to get into the litigation space, and the restraint on expression and speech. So if they want to do both, how do they figure things out? A lot of young lawyers are told to keep their views down, stay quiet, keep a low profile, it will affect briefs and stuff like that. So what is your advice to them?
There is a certain degree of truth to it. And maybe my only suggestion is, would you rather be known for your professional competence first, and on the strength of that, make your opinions known so that people take you seriously? Or do you wish to just shoot in every possible direction? Why should people listen to you or me or anybody else? Everybody has an opinion. Every Tom, Dick and Harry has an opinion. So why do people listen to you? Because there is something called as the right to earn an opinion. Yes. You've worked hard. You've done something that allows people to take you a bit more seriously. But ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि आप gynecology से लेके ethnology पे आप expert हो सकते हैं ना? That can't happen. Yeah. You should try and realize that certain subjects require expertise, and there you try and follow the golden principle, which is keep your mouth shut when you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. So other than that, what I'd say as far as a law student is concerned is, law school is and the profession of law is like a fantastic superbike. You want to run it as a Luna, it's up to you. But do you want to really harness it at the level of a Kawasaki? The choice is yours. But that is possible only when you pay attention to the profession first and the subjects first. And make sure that your law school stint is spent proving yourself in the profession. When you enter the profession, maybe, just maybe,
try not to get into the activist mold too much. That doesn't mean keep your mouth shut, don't have an opinion, don't air an opinion. The problem with constantly being in the activist mode is that you become a one-trick pony. कि आपका एजेंडा वहीं तक सीमित रह जाता है. आपको आपके एजेंडा के बाहर कुछ दिखता ही नहीं है. वो थोड़ा एक प्रॉब्लम तो होता है. So maybe what you may want to do is to strike a balance between both. I certainly don't believe in asking people to shut up and not say what they want to do. But the only thing is, you can't say, I will say what I want and there should be no repercussions or consequences.
Yes.
Go ahead, express yourself. If there are consequences, be adult enough to take the consequences as well, and then don't play the victim. If you're adult enough to hold an opinion on a sensitive subject, surely you must be adult enough to take it on your chin when the repercussions come.
Yes.
Right? Or you should know how to navigate that space in a slightly more pragmatic manner and know where to say what. You see, this comes from a person who said a lot of things. So surely I know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
To a reasonable extent. I'm not saying I have the answers to everything, but it's not as if I have not held forth on sensitive subjects. I have.
Yes.
But I have chosen my moments, my platform, and I've tried my best to ensure that it doesn't collide with my subject matter competence as a litigator and as a lawyer. I can also say this, despite my positions, a lot of people who hold diametrically opposite positions on ideological fronts have come and worked with me, have come and spoken with me, have engaged with me, have expressed a wish to work with me. So I think there is a space for that kind of inclusion and accommodation as well, provided you are not a brash person in the first place.
Yes.
If you tend to be brash, that's exactly what you will get with interest from the opposite side. So, किस रोड पे कौन से गियर पे चलाना है, थोड़ा वहाँ पे विवेक का अपनाना जरूरी है.
If you were in a parallel universe, what would you be if not a lawyer? A political leader? I mean, I'm just throwing things. A spiritual leader? Somebody else?
I have neither the qualifications nor the bandwidth for it. If anything, what I would certainly want to do was my first love, which is I wanted to be an aerospace engineer.
Oh.
And I would certainly have wanted to explore that. The interesting combination that I would have certainly looked at is economics, mathematics, and history.
Oh. So academic space, definitely.
That space for sure, I would have wanted to dig deep into each of these subjects and come out with something which is unified. So political science I'm certainly interested in, if not politics in itself. Then economics, history, and mathematics. One sharpens the humanities side, the other sharpens the analytical side, and you try and bring it to bear on the application side. And that I think is the combination that most lawyers should perhaps aim for, so that you have the best of both worlds, the analytical side as well as the humanitarian side, because law is a combination of both in my limited view. That is what I would have gone for, which is my alternative version would have been to recraft my undergrad program for me to get back into law with a different set of skill sets.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So basically means that you would be a lawyer then.
I'd still be a lawyer or any other profession that lets me vent my aggressive instincts.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you so
much.
much.
It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so
Thank
much for your time.